Hello everyone, it's Patrick, ready for our introductory video for Module 2. Now, before I start, let me say, this is our first module that's really starting on Sunday, going through Saturday, so we have the full week. That means that the due dates for things are moved up a day or two. Okay, unlike last week where we started on Tuesday. So I think it's actually Wednesday. The reading response, taking the quiz, and initial posting to the threaded discussion all come up sometime around Wednesday. So you need to be on top of that, okay? There's not time to put things off on a 6-week class, as I've said. All right, great. We're going to jump right into Patrick's points then. Our kind of focal skill or topic this week is phonemic awareness. You'll read about it in 2 of Randy O'Connor's chapters. Excellent chapters. This will be review for those of you who were with me in the fall. Hopefully we'll add some more details, some more specificity there. But you saw it in the fall because it is a critical early reading skill. You'll see it again in your methods classes, I'm sure. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. It takes this repeated exposure to really kind of master this, understand it, and be ready to implement it in a classroom. All right, so without further ado, let's jump into that quick review of the what and why of phonemic awareness. What is it? Well, it is the awareness of the individual sounds in speech or in a language. Okay, so there's something called phonological awareness, which is a broad awareness of the sound system of a language. So that could be a kid, a 2-year-old, who's aware that take and bake rhyme. It could be that 3 or 4-year-old who recognizes that tiny turtles start the same. It could be a 4-year-old who can break a word into its syllables. Those are all a more general awareness of the sounds in a language as opposed to the meaning of words. Phonemic awareness is a sub-skill underneath the broader umbrella of phonological awareness. And phonemic awareness, as we said, is that awareness of the individual sounds that make up the words in our speech. Okay, so for instance, if I tell a kindergartner, hey, what sounds do you hear in the word cat? And they come back with k, a, t. I say, great, those are the sounds, those are the phonemes that make up the word cat. Or it could be the reverse. I could give them the sounds. Hey, I'm going to give you some sounds and I want you to blend them together and tell me what word it is. And so I say k, a, t, and they say cat. I say, great phonemic awareness. That would be the blending side of things. Okay, so that is the what? That awareness of the individual sounds in speech. Now notice that this is a totally oral skill. Okay, when I worked with that hypothetical kindergartner, I wasn't holding up letters. We weren't decoding or writing those words. We were just playing with the sounds orally in speech. So phonemic awareness, I mean, it overlaps a lot with phonics because obviously when we learn letter sounds, we learn that letters represent the phonemes, the sounds in words. But technically, phonemic awareness is a separate oral language skill. All right? And there's a lot of confusion around that. Now, why are we talking about it? Why is it important in terms of literacy? Well, I think it's fairly obvious that both beginning decoding and encoding, spelling of words, have as their sort of foundation phonemic awareness. When I show a kid the word cat, that kid needs to translate those letters into the sounds that they make. So, k, a, t. And then blend those sounds together. Hold them in their memory and then blend them together to read the word cat. So, it is a phoneme blending task that underlies the decoding process. Encoding or writing of words, well, that's obvious. It's a phoneme segmentation skill. So I have to be able to say cat, k. Okay, k. That's the C. That's the A. And so that child needs to segment the sounds in that word and able to sort of represent them with the appropriate letters. Okay, now at a deeper level, and my students from the fall will recall this, we know from research, very interesting research, that phonemic awareness also underlies the creation of sort of automatic word recognition. What automatic word recognition relies on is creating a complete phoneme grapheme map in our minds, in our brains. And so we sort of create a representation of the sounds in a word like at, and we sort of map them onto the letters that represent those sounds. And we hold that map in our memory, and we actually add the meaning of that sort of word, a fuzzy little critter over here. And so that when we see the letters cat, it immediately calls up the pronunciation and that fuzzy critter that is a cat. And so even at this deep level of creating sort of sight words, automatic word recognition, it's built on the foundation of phonemic awareness. Okay, now let me say one other thing I should have mentioned when we emphasize that phonemic awareness is truly an oral skill. It really doesn't necessarily have to be linked to knowing letters and letter sounds at all. What's amazing about that is it gives us a tool to assess and predict who will have difficulty with beginning reading and writing before kids even have learned their first letter. And so I can sit down on the first day of kindergarten and assess kids for phonemic awareness and kind of predict who's going to struggle before I've even begun teaching them the alphabet. So that is very powerful. It's very nice to have that kind of assessment tool on hand so that early on I can start sort of intensifying, let's say, phonemic awareness instruction for that small group of kids who I can predict are really going to struggle. All right, let's move on to the levels of phonemic awareness. And again, this is something of a review for those who are with us in the fall. The first and kind of easiest phoneme skill for kids to master is to segment that initial sound in a word. And so the k in cat, all right? One of the things I should say that makes phonemic awareness difficult for kids, and it's a little hard for us as adults to even anticipate that kids would struggle with this at all, but that is that when we say that phonemes are the individual sounds in words, that's not really true. That's kind of a hypothetical case, because when we speak, the sounds in words actually co-articulate. One blends into the other. And so segmenting them, pulling them apart is a little bit of a fabrication. Okay? And of course, there is nothing to co-articulate with the initial phoneme in a word, with k in cat. And so that makes it a lot easier. It's also in that first emphasized place. Okay? Now, the reason that initial phoneme segmentation is really critical is it is the basis for learning the letter sounds. Think about how we teach initial letter sounds to kids in kindergarten. We say, okay, this is the letter M. It says like you hear in moon and map and mouse. Yeah, that's all well and good if our students have initial phoneme awareness and they can say, the first sound in map is Oh, that is the sound that the M's making. How about the kid who doesn't have this skill? And I say, what's the first sound in map? And they say, map. That totally throws off the learning of initial letter sounds. I guarantee you 100% the kids who will really struggle in your kindergarten class with learning the sounds of the letters are the kids who are very weak in phonemic awareness, even to the extent that they don't hear and segment that initial sound. All right, next level we often talk about is onset rhyme. The onset is the initial consonant or consonant blend in a word, and the rhyme is everything that follows. So we have something like sh, ip. Okay, so we segment the initial sound